What's up, YouTubers? This is your boys Big Metroid Fan 12 coming to you with another video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the Atari VCS again. And pretty much this video that I'm doing now, I wanted to make for a few months and everything. Now, pretty much there's a lot of people from the gaming community that have said that the Atari VCS it's a scam, especially since 2018. And I've been pretty vocal about the Atari VCS being a scam, and I'm not pretty much the only one who has said it. There's like other YouTubers like Smash JT and Rich from Review Tech USA who have also said that the Atari VCS is a scam and stuff. Now, in one of my last videos about the Atari VCS, there have been some like a few people who have said that the Atari VCS isn't a scam, and they were like pretty adamant about it, even though they never explained why and everything. Now, are there reasons as to are there legitimate reasons to say that the Atari VCS is a scam? I would say yes, and in fact, I wrote down 7 reasons why. The first reason is the fact that the code name for the Atari VCS was a red was called the Atari box and stuff like that. And the second reason has to do with the fact that the $3 million that was raised from the Indiegogo campaign wasn't enough to make, ship, and market the Atari VCS. Then the third reason is the fact that there is no working prototype. The fourth reason is the fact that there's no games that have been officially announced. Then there's the multiple delays, which is the fifth reason. The sixth reason is the fact that there's 3 versions of the Atari VCS, which is necessary, and they're all 3 are expensive for a retro console. Then there's the fact that Rob Wyatt quit back in late 2019. Now, I'm going to dive into the first reason I think that the Atari VCS is a scam, and it was first mentioned by Rich from Review Tech USA and everything, and he pretty much mentioned that that the fact that the Atari VCS was called the Atari box should have been the first red flag, due to the fact that it was a lack of creativity on the part of this company behind the Atari VCS. Now, I do agree with Rich in the, because naming the Atari VCS the Atari box for a code name is a lack of creativity that pretty much wasn't trying. Now, I compare this to, like, say, the Nintendo 64 and everything. The code name for that console was the Ultra 64, and when it came to the code name for the Switch, it was called the NX. The people at Nintendo had more creativity in the code names for the Nintendo 64 and Nintendo Switch than this company had with the code name for the Atari VCS and everything. Now, I would say that a lack of creativity shows that this company just wasn't trying, and they were just outright lazy with the code name of the Atari VCS and everything. Now it's time to go to my second reason why the Atari VCS is a scam, and it has to do with the Indiegogo campaign. Now, $3 million for the Indiegogo campaign is a success, but it's not enough to make, market, and pretty much ship out the Atari VCS. Now, when a company does do a crowdfunding campaign or such, it's kind of like the assumption is that they have the majority of money that they need to make the project but they need a frac but they need a little bit more money to from crowdfunding to cap off the budget and stuff like that. Now, one example of that will be has to do with Super Troopers 2. Now, 20th Century Fox had the majority of the money in the budget to start production, but they didn't have the last remaining that was needed to start production for Super Troopers 2. So what they told the comedy team, Brooklyn Lizard, was that if you want production for Super Trooper to start, you have to raise the money yourselves, which they did, and it was successful. So they ended up starting production for Super Troopers 2 when they did, and it came out in the theaters when it did. Now, what did that have to do with the Atari VCS? Pretty simple. It seems that with the Atari VCS, there wasn't enough money in the budget for them to like actually make, market, and ship out the Atari VCS and everything. Now, I read an online article on the website PC World, and the title of the article is called "How to Build a Raspberry Pi Retro Gaming Emulation Console" by Benji Edwards. I might be pronouncing his first name wrong, but in the article he mentioned the parts that was needed to make the Raspberry Pi console, along with the prices of each part. For example, it will cost $7 to get a HDMI cable, and $10 for a power supply, and all the prices were based off of the prices they looked at from Amazon.com and stuff like that. Now, Benji had crunched the numbers, and he mentioned that it will cost somewhere between $105 to $153 to make a Raspberry Pi console. That's just one. Now that is inexpensive though. Now you could apply that to the Atari VCS, and I went into the assumption that the parts that they got was parts that envisioned, I assume rather, that they were planning to make, ship, and market 1.5 million units of the Atari VCS, with the prices that was mentioned in this online article, which I say was between 105 and 115, $153. So I went with the low end first. Now the $105 price tag. Now the budget for the Atari VCS for that price tag will, with the when you multiply the 1.5 million with the $105, the budget would be pretty much $157 million, slightly above it. Not pretty much not factoring in the marketing and shipping and stuff. If not, and I crunched the numbers also for the high end, $153 per unit, and the budget was 229 million dollars, slightly higher than that. I guess my point is that they didn't have. If they had a working prototype of this, they would be in deep trouble and everything. They wouldn't. They would have had, if this if the Atari VCS wasn't a scam, they would have had the majority of the money needed to make, ship, and market it. But there's nothing to indicate that they had the money and everything, as far as the budget is, as far as the majority of the budget is concerned and everything. and that's how I look at it. Now I'm just gonna go into like the third reason, which is there's like I just mentioned it, the working prototype. Um, Pretty much like nobody really saw a working prototype of the Atari VCS since it was announced back in 2017 and everything, which is almost 3 years now, and everything. It is pretty much well known that when it comes to doing an Indiegogo campaign, you don't have to produce a working prototype when it comes to tech stuff and everything. Which of course is not required and everything. And this company knew that they didn't have a working prototype going into this Indiegogo campaign. And, now when you compare this to the NES Mini, Super Nintendo Mini, Sega Genesis Mini, and the PlayStation Mini, Sony, Sega, and Nintendo showed a working prototype practically within, I guess, a couple of months after they announced it. You know what I'm saying? So they had no problem. So, so a lot of people believe that they had a retro. Those three companies had a retro console because they showed a working prototype and stuff like that, and some gameplay footage on top of it. And speaking of games, they were supposed to be for the Atari VCS. Of course, none has been announced. Now, there was supposed to be some games that was released for the Atari 2600 and Atari 5200. That was supposed to be on the Atari VCS. There was one problem. Not one game was announced from these consoles and stuff. And another Atari console, some more games that was supposed to be a part of the Atari VCS supposed to have come from the Atari ST. Again, no games from the Atari ST were announced to be on the Atari VCS and everything. Now there was some games from other consoles like Neo Geo, Sega Genesis, Commodore 64 that was supposed to be on the Atari VCS. Now I would say I'll be honest enough to admit that I doubt that Sega have agreed to have their first party games from the Sega Master System and the Genesis to be a part of it and everything, part of the Atari VCS. Plus, I also doubt that the first party games from the Genesis and Sega Master System will would run smoothly on the Atari VCS, given the specs that this company pushed out and everything on the Atari VCS. Then then there's the possibility of them running into some licensing issues with the other consoles like the Commodore 64 because some of these publishers are no longer in business and stuff like that. Plus, another thing that Rich from Review Tech USA mentioned in his last video about the Atari VCS is the fact that um, the company showed some gameplay footage of Tempest 4000 on the Atari VCS Indiegogo campaign, but um, the representatives of Llamasoft, who are the publishers behind the Tempest 4000, pretty much refuted the gameplay footage on the Atari VCS Indiegogo campaign, and they said in a statement that they didn't even know about it and everything. So they was like quick to refute it and everything. Then there's of course the multiple delays. Now I'm no I'm going Now I'm going to exclude the last delay that they had from last month because of this disease that's going around and stuff. But the previous delays, I would say, stretching from 2017 to 2019, they had around 3 or 4 delays and everything. Now, now the thing about it is that when a game is delayed, like once, there's usually a legitimate reason as to why the game was delayed. For example, Nintendo delayed Metroid Prime 4 because of the whole process was it didn't meet Nintendo standards, so they hired um Retro Studios to start from scratch and stuff. So we haven't heard a lot for that. But the point is, Nintendo had legitimate reasons to pretty much delay Metroid Prime 4. But like if a console or a game has been delayed like 3 or 4 times within a given time frame, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, that game or console usually gets canceled or pretty much the final product is not as good as it could have been, and pretty much Duke Nukem Forever is an example of the latter and everything. So so that the fact that it has been laid this many times, just people just got fed up and stuff. Now the three versions of the Atari VCS, and I'll be honest, that is so unnecessary because due to the fact that when it comes to the Atari VCS, not the Atari VCS, but the NES Mini, the Super Nintendo Mini, Genesis Mini, and the PlayStation 1 Mini, there was just like one version of each of those retro consoles and stuff like that. So I don't know why they would have three versions for it unless they were trying to get a fast buck and everything. Plus, with the one version, I would say the three versions cost 249, 299, and 389 respectively. You know what I'm saying? And with the 249 model, it don't come with the controllers, no controllers at all. So apparently you have to buy the controllers needed to play it, which would cost you extra and everything. And pretty much like the standard always been for selling consoles that a console has to have at least one controller, you know what I'm saying, without buying any unnecessary like extras and stuff. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say the standard bit to have at least like one or two controllers and stuff, without any other accessories and stuff like that. Now, pretty much other retro consoles that I mentioned pretty much cost around $100 and everything. The prices for the versions of these three versions of the Atari VCS are not retro console prices. These are like prices you would see from current gen consoles after they have been released for like a couple of years, 2 3 years or something like that and everything. So to me, you just better off buying the other retro consoles, whether it's the NES Mini or the Sega Genesis Mini and stuff like that. Now I'm on to my final reason why the Atari VCS is a scam. Of course, it has to do with Rob Wyatt quitting back in late 2019. Now he's was the architect behind the Atari VCS, and he ended up quitting, saying that he wasn't paid for 6 months and everything. And the fact that he quit for that reason tells me apparently this company didn't have enough money not only to make, ship, and market the Atari VCS, they didn't have enough to fully pay Wyatt and all that and everything. So now, am I saying now I could say that it is possible that the Atari VCS is a scam. It's possible, but based on the stuff that has happened since 2017, with the delays, with Rob Wyatt quitting and everything, with the fake Tempest 4000 gameplay footage on the Indiegogo website, I'm pretty much convinced that the Atari VCS is a scam, pure and simple, and all that. Now, you can sound off in the comment section on whether or not you think that Atari VCS is a scam or not. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you like this video, don't hesitate to click the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification button. This is your boy Big Metro and Fan 12 signing off.